Good morning. The September 2018 chapter meeting of the Dallas number 2 is now in session. I'm going to have everybody stand right now before I call on our chaplain. I had a great reminder from our past president, Mike Pedrides, that we need a small moment of silence in remembrance of September 11th, which is this coming Tuesday. Please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you.
Dear God, it's always our joy to find folks around who want to share with others your wisdom, your power, your presence, which you give to us in love so very often and all the time. So, as we proceed with this meeting, we will do it remembering that we are a part of your kingdom and that we are proudly called sons of God. In the name of the Christ, amen.
Amen. Would you please join me in the pledge of the American flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Jerry Brown, would you lead us in the pledge of the Texas flag?
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
And Alan Prather, how about the affirmation to the SAR?
We do citizens of the heroes of the American Revolution, who by their sacrifices established the United States of America.
We affirm our faith in the principles of liberty and our constitutional republic, and solemnly pledge ourselves to defend and liberty for all. And as long as we're standing with good voice, Brother John Morton, would you lead us in America? My country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrim's pride, from every mountainside, let freedom ring. Thank you. Okay, please be seated. Mr. Ralph McDowell, please introduce your co-host this morning as a greeter.
Yes, sir. Good morning, everybody. Chalmers Onberg and I tried to greet all of you this morning. Glad to see you.
Thank you, Ralph. Thank you, Chalmers. Also in attendance this morning, we have a number of our fine people from the state level. State Inland Registrar Jerry Brown, District 6 VP Gary Lovell. We also have Tracy Pounders, who is our state chancellor, and of course Frank Pounders, the state chaplain. Any other guests starting up at this table right here, Marshall?
Tom?
Yes.
Mike up a little bit.
I'm sorry. Okay. Jerry, any guests at your table? No, Mark's not a guest. No. He pretender to the throne. Yeah, we know that. Okay. Okay, Alan, anybody at your table? Glenn, anybody there?
My lovely daughter Sarah is going to be 14 next Saturday.
Oh, look at this. Good. Gary, I know you're by yourself, so I guess that you're not a guest. And Jerry Pinkerton, how about your table?
I have two new members and their family members with me. I have Scott Montague and his son Nathan. Scott will be inducted in a moment. And then I have Justin Long and his wife Lisa, and he will be inducted a little bit later.
Welcome to the chapter. Tracy and Frank and Ralph, I don't think there's anybody back there.
Yes, we have a new prospective member here, Conrad Mann. Conrad, I go to church with him, and he's a antique dealer, so anyway.
All right. Well, very good. Conrad, welcome to the meeting. And we have another guest.
I also had my mother here, Brandy Sue Hamilton.
Randy Sue, always glad to have you. Very good. Okay. The moment of levity, I think, was disseminated to the table, so you probably can find out how Tom stays up late and does things. We have a special presentation this morning that kind of is listed on the agenda. I need Jerry Pinkerton to come up front for a moment. I also need Tom Whitelock to come up for a moment. And you're probably wondering what you did.
Yes.
Well, I'll tell you what you did. You bought a raffle ticket. And apparently, you have won.
I got it. Oh, got it. Oh, boy.
Be careful where you point it.
That
Hey.
is, hey,
This is at the state meeting, pays to go to those meetings,
sure
pays
does.
also to buy 150 tickets too.
It's a good cause.
And it's easy to do when you're independently wealthy like Jerry is, yes.
And neither of those applied to me. I just have one comment. Until just now, I was dangerous. Now I'm armed. All right, guys. Hello.
Not only armed, but dangerous.
Perfect.
Well, thanks.
Everybody said that 15 minutes ago.
Jerry, congratulations, well earned. I'm just sorry it took us a while to get it to you.
Yes, boy.
That's cool.
That's very nice, isn't it? As a matter of fact, for those of us in the room that are going to be attending the BOM in October, they have the same raffle going on again, and when you go online and get your reservation for the BOM down in South Texas, they're going to give away another musket, a handgun, a fighting hatchet, so please don't hesitate to do that.
What they don't tell you is that whoever wins down at New Braunfels at the BOM, you get this musket. We transfer it over so they keep making it.
You can't get in front of Whitlock, I'm telling you. Okay, well, this morning it's my pleasure to introduce someone we all know very well, Brother John Morton, who spends a lot of time working in behalf of the chapter, particularly with the Veterans Association. But John has kind of a burning part of his life that he feels very close to, and that happens to be the founding of the country and the Declaration of Independence. And John is going to come to us this morning and read us the Declaration of Independence. John Morton.
Is this good? All right. Okay. The Declaration of Independence. In Congress, July the 4th, 1776. When in course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitled them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the cause which impel them to the separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Prejudice indeed will dictate the governments long established should not be changed for light and transparent causes, and accordingly all experience has shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer whilst evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations pursuing invariably the same object enhances a design to reduce them under absolute deposition, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. Such has been the patient sufferance of these colonies, and such is now the necessity which constrains them to alter their former systems of government. The history of the present King of Great Britain is a history of repeated injuries and usurpations, and all having in direct object the establishment of an absolute tyranny over these states. To prove this, let facts be submitted to the candid world. He has refused his assent to laws the most wholesome and necessary for the public good. He has forbidden his governors to pass laws of immediate and pressing importance unless suspended in their operation till his assent shall be obtained, and when so suspended, he has utterly neglected to attend to them. He has refused to pass other laws for the accommodation of long districts of people, unless these people would relinquish the right of representation to the legislature, a right inestimable to them and formidable to tyrants only. He has called together legislative bodies, places unusual, uncomfortable, and distant from the depository of public records, for the sole purpose of fatiguing them into compliance with his measures. He has dissolved representative houses repeatedly for opposing with manly firmness his invasion on the rights of the people. He has refused for a long time after such dissolutions to cause others to be elected, whereby the legislative powers incapable of annihilation have returned to the people at large for their exercise, the state remaining in the meantime exposed to all dangers of invasion from without and convulsions within. He has endeavored to prevent the population of these states for that purpose of obstructing the laws for naturalization of foreigners, refusing to pass others to encourage their migration hither, and raising the conditions of all appropriation of lands. He has obstructed the administration of justice by refusing his assent to laws for establishing judiciary powers. He has made judges dependent on the will alone for the tenure of their offices and the amount and payment of their salaries. He has erected a multitude of new offices and sent hither swarms of officers to harass our people and eat out their substance. He has kept among us the times of peace, in times of peace, standing armies without the consent of our legislature. He has effected to render the military independence of the superior to the civil power. He has combined with others to subject us to a jurisdiction foreign to our Constitution and unacknowledged by our laws, giving his assent to their acts of pretended legislation, for quartering large bodies of armed troops among us, for protecting them by a mock trial from punishment for any murders which they should commit on the inhabitants of these states, for cutting off our trade with all parts of the world, for imposing taxes on us without our consent, for depriving us, in many cases, of the benefit of trial by jury, for transporting us beyond seas to be tried for pretended offenses, for abolishing the free system of English laws in a neighboring province, establishing therein an arbitrary government and enlarging its boundaries so as to render it at once an example and fit instrument for introducing the same absolute rule into these colonies, for taking away our charters, abolishing our most valuable laws, and altering fundamentally the forms of our government, for suspending our own legislatures and declaring themselves invested with power to legislate for us in all cases whatsoever. He has abdicated government here by declaring us out of his protection and waging war against us. He has plundered our seas, ravaged our coasts, burned our towns, and destroyed the lives of our people. He is at this time transporting large armies of foreign mercenaries to complete the work of death, dissolution, and tyranny already begun with circumstances of cruel and perfidy scarcely paralleled in the most barbarous ages and totally unworthy the head of a civilized nation. He has constrained our fellow citizens, taken capture of the high seas to bear arms against their country, to become the executors of their friends and brethren, or to fall themselves by their hands. He has excited domestic insurrection among us and has endeavored to bring on the inhabitants of our frontiers, the merciless Indian savages whose known rule of warfare is an undistinguishable destruction of our ages, sexes, and conditions. In every stage of these oppressions, we have petitioned for redress in the most humble terms. Our repeated petitions have been answered only by repeated injury. A prince whose character is thus marked by every act which may define a tyrant is unfit to be the ruler of free people. Nor have we been wanting in attention to our British brethren. We have warned them from time to time of attempts by their legislature to extend an unwarrantable jurisdiction over us. We have reminded them of the circumstances of our immigration and settlement here. We have appealed to their native justice and magnanimity, and we have conjured them by the ties of our common kindred to disavow these usurpations, which would inevitably interrupt our connections and correspondence. They have been deaf to the voice of justice and consanguinity. We must therefore acquiesce in the necessity which denounces our separation and hold them, as we hold the rest of mankind, enemies in war, in peace friends. We therefore, the representatives of the United States of America, in General Congress, assembled appealing to the Supreme Judge of the world for the rectitude of our intentions due, and in the name and by authority of the good people of these colonies, solely publish and declare that these united colonies are, and of right, ought to be free and independent states. that they are absolved from all allegiance to the British Crown, and that all political connections between them and the state of Great Britain is and are to be totally dissolved, that as free and independent states they have full power to levy war, conclude peace, contract alliances, establish commerce, and to do all other acts and things which independent states may have the right to do. And for the support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. The Declaration of Independence.
Don't run away.
I will.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You bet.
Appreciate that. And that was read on July 4th, 1776, and signed some days later. And that was sent to the King of England, and it was read in open court in England within the month. And the king got up and left the room. He couldn't believe what was happening. Good job.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'd like to present you with a little appreciation.
Great.
If you would, for Tom. Thank you, John.
You bet. Thank you.
Appreciate that.
You bet.
What John didn't tell you was that he practiced that reading in the bathroom at home for almost a half month.
That's true.
Came a voice from the other side of the door, his wife. You had better be meeting King George and not me.
It was also discovered during his research that Tom Whitelock was one of the original signers. Well, this morning we have a great guest. Most of you know Monty Monzinga. He's been a member of 2 different chapters. Monty has a great story to share with us this morning. We're going to take you back to the Civil War. During the war between the states, we hear a lot of discussion about the people that were killed and wounded, but we don't hear a lot about the prisoners of war. And one of the most infamous prisoners of war camp was Andersonville. And Monty has a connection that he's going to tell us about.
That's in the number of 4 chapters.
4 chapters.
Yeah. I assume you remember George Gavel? You're old enough to remember George Gavel. One of the stories about him is he was fixing to go on stage. He was backstage, and just before he was called to go out, he poured himself a glass of whiskey and downed it. And the person said, "You mean you drink that before you go out?" He said, "I'm not going out alone." You probably saw the picture that Tom put in. Tom means well, but he blew my cover. You see that picture? Dark glasses on. I went downtown Dallas street corner, dressed up, and put on my dark glasses. I pretended to be a blind Revolutionary War veteran, see if I could raise some money. See if I could raise a little money. And so Tom comes along, takes my picture, and blew my cover. He meant well. What caused Andersonville Prison? It was also called Camp Sumter. Of course, when they stopped exchanging prisoners, the South was blamed for it because they didn't want to deal with black POWs. The North, Grant did not want to exchange prisoners till the war was over. And he felt, and probably rightly so, if he released prisoners back to the South, they would come right back and start fighting. The war would continue. The prison was only open 14 months, and in that time, 45,000 men went through there. At one time, there were 33,000. It was designed for about 8,000. It only covered about 23 and a half acres. It wasn't very large at all. Have any of you been there? Yeah, I went there. Unfortunately, when I was there, I didn't know that I'd had relatives that were incarcerated there. 13,000 of them died. So, of course, you probably know that the commander, I guess his name is pronounced Wirtz, maybe Wirtz, I'm not sure. He was executed. He was the only person, I guess, of war crimes. Okay, you're going to learn more about my family than you ever intended to learn, but you might actually find it interesting. Different, maybe even interesting. Dorrance Atwater was a prisoner, and he was given the charge of writing down a list of the names of people who died at Andersonville. Of course, he was supposed to be writing it for the Union. He also made a copy he was supposed to write it in the Union, and he made a copy he was trying to write it for the Confederacy, get this right, made a copy for the Union, and that's how we wound up knowing who died there. Now, the writing was really, really bad. I will mention some of your names, in fact. So when you read the names listed, you have to kind of guess what it really says. Now, my family name, there are M.O. Zingos, M.A. Zingos, M.U. Zingos, M.O.N.T. Zingos, M.O.N. Zingos. Even my pronunciation of my last name is Monzingo. Some of them pronounce it Munzingo. We did a DNA testing several years ago and proved that all of these people were all one big happy family. Of that group, 72 served for the Confederacy, 28 for the Union. Now, I did a little research on the officers, looked up the piece of paper that I put out there gives you 2 bits of information about my family members. At the very top, there is a link to a website which lists the people that were at Andersonville. But anyway, as for Watts, who's not here, there were 16 people that are listed as Watts. But it could be Watt, it could have been Waters, anything that came close. Van Fossen, there were 4. Yes. Tanner, there were 9. None for Whitelock, but there were 4 Whitlocks. I don't know if the Whitelocks and Whitlocks are related or not. Harper, there were 23. But again, it could be a variation. It may not be Harper, but it's close. Now for Brown, there were 319. But it could be, like I say, it could have been Browder. Anything that came close, they probably listed as a Brown. Pinkerton, there were actually 2. Pounders, 1. And Sonecker, I don't know, is that how you pronounce it? Close enough. Close? That's the same with mine. There were none. You guys were shifty. Okay, enough about that, and now we'll get to the obituary. This is based on obituary. The thing in the minutes that Tom wrote ancestors, actually it's ancestor, just 1. I had 2 there, 1 survived, 1 didn't. Now, some of the stuff in this obituary is very, very sad, and some of it I find to be very, very amusing. And maybe this is just my sense of humor. So if I feel like chuckling, y'all may not feel that way. This was actually, oops, I got too many pieces of paper. I'm a mathematician. I went to a math conference one time, and this is back way before we were using overhead projectors. And a friend of mine gave a talk. Just before he walked up there, he dropped all of his slides. He picked them up and did the talk at random, just whichever one he put up there. I assure you, we had no clue what he was talking about. I'll try to get my papers in order. Okay, this is Thomas Marion Monzingo. Actually, it's Mozingo, but it's easy for me to just call it Monzingo. He was my 4th cousin, 4 times removed. He died May 9th, 1911. And this was a Sand Creek Cemetery, Greensburg, Indiana, Decatur County. It starts off, Captain Monzingo is gone. He wasn't a captain, he was a private. And I assume people that survived the Civil War, they were probably called captain or colonel or something like that. Now the next statement, to me, sort of hits home in present day. It starts off, one by one, the patriotic soldiers of the 60s are passing away. And it makes me think of World War II or even Korean veterans. Tuesday at 4:30 p.m., Captain Thomas M. Monzingo answered the last roll call at his home on East Hendrick Street after months of suffering of rheumatism and heart trouble. You've heard of rheumatism. You're old enough to... That's no such thing. I mean, it's probably arthritis, but it's not a medical term. Mr. Monzingo was one of the best known and most highly esteemed citizens of the county. He was born July 3rd, 1838, on a farm 4 miles southeast of town. He enlisted at the first call of troops in Company F, 7th Indiana, and was in the first land battle of the Civil War at Philippi, Virginia, June 3rd, 1861. I guess it's pronounced Philippi. In the first land battle. Any comments? What was the first battle? Fort Sumter. That was not considered a land battle. So this... Okay, Fort Sumter was April 12th, 1861. July 21st, 1861 was the first Bull Run. Now, after that battle, the 7th Regiment fought in battles of Greenbrier River, Winchester, Port Republic. John Monzingo from Louisiana, one of my cousins, distant cousins, died at Port Republic for the South. He was fighting the South. Groverton, Second Bull Run, South Mountain, Antietam, Fredericksburg, Chancellorsville, Gettysburg, Battle of the Wilderness. So that was something. Okay, next thing, the question here. After his 3-month service had expired, he re-enlisted in the 3 years 7th Regiment in Company E under Ira G. Grover and was mustered out April 13th, 1865. After his 3 months service. Any comments about that? Are you not familiar with that? I wasn't either when I first saw that. When the war started, the North thought it was going to be over in about 3 months. So, I'd run out there and get this over and come back. Flag bearers. If you were picturing a flag bearer in the Civil War, what would you picture? Well, I'm talking about the person carrying it, not the flag.
Young person.
Very, very young. After a kid, they're all probably young, but I mean, that's what's, I find the next paragraph amusing. Hopefully you will not think worse of me for being that way. On May 5th, 1864, when the 7th captured the 5th Virginia, it was Mr. Monzingo, Perry S. Tremaine, and Robert L. Allier who had the honor of capturing the rebel flag after a hard fight with the color bearer. Three guys jumped this kid and take his flag. Oh, good. You found that amusing. Now, the sad part. Later on the same day, Comrade Monzingo and 36 other members of the 7th, including Colonel Grover, were captured and taken to Andersonville Prison, where he was kept for 10 months. And it was only there open 14 months, so he was there almost the entire time. Too many papers. On September 7th, 1871, the deceased was married to Miss Ann Eliza Wheat, daughter of C.P. Wheat of Harrison County, Kentucky. In 1879, he moved to that state where he resided until 1900, when he returned to spend his last days among old friends and comrades of his early years. Mr. Monzingo was several times honored by his fellow citizens. In 1874, he was nominated for sheriff by the Republican Party, but he was defeated owing to disaffection in the party. I wasn't familiar with that word at all. What it really means is they didn't like him. Here's why. Previous to that time, he served as county assessor for 2 years. Well, in those days, they certainly didn't like county assessor. After going to Kentucky, he declined the nomination for county judge of Grant County, and from 1885 to 1890 was engaged in the drug business. Now, that means something different to us. Later, he was connected with the Corinth Deposit Bank in an official capacity. Maybe he was a janitor. I mean, I don't know. Okay, we're getting toward the end here. The deceased was a member of Greensburg Chapter number 8, Royal Arch Masons. Most of them were probably Masons. And this is PAP, Thomas Post number 5, GAR, and an elder in the Christian church of which he had been a member since 1877. We know DAR, CAR, SAR. What was GAR? Grand Army of the Republic. I have a marker that I can't find because of so many moves, but it was a marker that would go on a grave. And it's legit, but it wasn't taken off of a grave. It was a cemetery that had a bunch of them left over and sold them. The funeral was held at the home 2 p.m. yesterday. Reverend W.J. Cock officiating. Burial in charge of the Masons and the GAR at Sand Creek Cemetery. So, thank you.
Just stay the course here for a minute.
Pardon?
Just stay the course.
Oh,
right here.
stay the course.
Yeah.
That's Saturday Night Live. That's when George Bush, the guy pretending to be George Bush, stay the course. He's trying to stay the course. 1,000 points of light. Stay the course.
Want to thank you.
Oh, I already have one of those, so save it.
Well, let me tell you something.
Okay?
We discovered that.
And you want it
You
back?
already have that. No, we're doing this because we don't want you to feel empty-handed, but we actually have a special gift for you. It didn't make it here in time.
Oh.
So the next time you attend a meeting, you're going to be like Jerry Pinkerton. You're going to get a special, not a musket, but you're going to get a special gift that Mr. Whitelock has procured for you.
Oh, great.
Because he assumes you had a number. of
Yes.
those. All right,
Well,
here.
a number of what?
Here.
Oh.
Thank you, Thomas.
Now, this picture will remind me that you got a special gift.
Exactly. And again, thank you
bet.
for your time.
Yeah, back to Pinkerton. Jerry and I are in American, as you know, the A1. And, oops, I'm getting his stuff. My father's buried in the Netherlands, and I found that not only is my father buried in the Netherlands, 2 distant cousins are also buried in the Netherlands, a military cemetery. I've got one buried in Belgium, one buried in Normandy, and then I've got one listed on the tablet of the missing in Manila, where his father was buried. So I lost a bunch of people. They were from different states. Some of them were Mozingo, some of them Luzingo, different stuff. And I doubt that any of them knew each other. Of course, I was 4 years old, so I don't really remember my father either. Thank you.
Thank you, Bonnie. Appreciate it. I would, as we move forward with the agenda, I would draw your attention to the center of the agenda that Tom passed out. You'll see in there the website for signing up to do day service at the State Fair at the DAR house. And I encourage everybody here to get online and reserve some time because it's a great experience. For the officers' reports, next week we're going to have a little different agenda because a bunch of us are going to be down in South Texas at the BOM, but it's going to be a great meeting. The secretary for the approval of the minutes, sir.
I make a motion that the minutes as posted and distributed be approved.
In favor, say aye. Aye. All right, it's carried.
I might remind you that since we have a goodness number of members that are delegates to the BOM, which is the Board of Managers meeting in the fall, which is in New Braunfels, we have a special honor for those members who remain here in Dallas and attend the October 13th meeting. We have brought back from way back, one of our antiques. Tom Smith will serve as president in charge of the meeting, and you can expect that to go like that.
It's only going to be enough of us to fit in the phone booth. I don't think it'll be
Yeah, we can have it out in the hallway, yeah. Well, Tom, thank you for filling in. I really appreciate we had this conflict in our scheduling, but thank you. Okay, treasurer's report, Nick. Everybody got a copy of it? And there's no questions. Thank you, Nick. For the new members and for the registrar, I'd like to have not only Jerry Pinkerton come up, but Gary Lovell, our District 6 VP, would you please come forward?
And I'd like the new members to come forward also.
Family members only.
Gary, why don't you get over that side, and I'll say listen, and then we can put these people here. So the process that we will go through is Gary Lovell will read the induction ceremony, and you will respond as you're supposed to. Following that, you will be pinned with the rosette, and the members know, but not everyone knows that this is the emblem of the Sons of the American Revolution. It's in the colors of buff and blue, which is the colors of George Washington's uniform. So when we get through with this, I will pass these, and they will pin. Everybody met Nathan and Scott Montague and Justin and Elisa Long. So shall we get started?
Some Patriot Justin Noel Long, Nathan Scott Montague. To you as a descendant of one of the patriots, heroes of the American Revolution, reaffirm your ancestors' faith in the principles of liberty and our constitutional republic. I do. And will you pledge to support the National Society of Sons of the American Revolution? I do. Now I take great pleasure in presenting your membership certificate. I'd like to ask that your members come forward and pin your rosette. This rosette is the official recognition emblem of the Sons of the American Revolution. Its blue and buff colors represent the colors in the uniform worn by General George Washington, wearing proudly. Patriots Long and Montague, we welcome you to the Dallas chapter.
We have these for your membership certificates, and I'm sure that our photographer is going to want pictures.
Yeah. We'd like to invite you to address the group. Anything you'd like to say about your answer? Thank you.
Very good. And before we do that, I'm going to present you each with the Texas SAR challenge coin, and Patriot Whitelock will explain what these are.
This challenge coin has been awarded to you as a new member of the chapter and in the society. And what you use that for is you keep it in your pocket, and you can challenge other members. If they don't have their coin with them, they buy you a drink. If they do have it, you buy them a drink.
So, please, you want to.
Well, hello. So we were asked to describe who our ancestor was, our ancestor is named Peter Montague. He was listed in an 1818 request for veteran benefits as a veteran of the Revolutionary War. He served in the Virginia 2nd Battalion under Andrew Parker, and he joined February 1777. He was in the service for 3 years, and from what I gather, he was probably captured at the Siege of Savannah, or the Second Battle of Savannah. And then when he registered for his pension, he died within a year and a half, and his land that he had given to his son. He was, I think, the third generation Montague in North America. His family originally, he's named after Peter Montague, the immigrant who came over from Dorney and Bovigny from England, which is just outside Windsor Castle in that area. So the family had been here since mid-1600s. And that's about all I know yet. One of these days I might come up and give you a lecture on more information on him and the Battle of Savannah and things like that. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. You'll forgive me, I just have some notes I need to consult here. Give me just a moment. You'll forgive me for just a moment, I have some notes that I have, here we go. So the first is a couple of sentences that a relative of mine compiled on my patriot ancestor, Thomas Atchley. During young manhood, Thomas Atchley moved to Loudoun County, Virginia. He was married here to Lydia Richards during 1780. Soon thereafter, they moved to Gavel-to-gavel County, Virginia, where they resided until 1786, when they moved to what is now Sevier County, Tennessee. As necessity demanded it, Thomas Atchley responded to the defense of his country. When he was 20 years old, he enlisted in the fall of 1775 in the Colonial Army and served for 1 month as a private in Major John Dunn's 1st Regiment, Middlesex County Militia. While a resident of Loudoun County, Virginia, he enlisted in the fall of 1777 and served 6 months as a private in Captain John Lewis's Virginia Company of Gavel-to-gavel County. He then enlisted again in the same year and served 2 weeks, making in all 4 enlistments during the Revolutionary War, if we can count the enlistment in New Jersey during 1775, which was, of course, prior to the time of the General Rebellion. He is buried in the Older Branch Baptist Church Cemetery in Sevier County, Tennessee, and there's a historical marker there, which reads, Thomas Atchley, 1755 to 1836. A soldier of the Colonial Army of 1775 and a veteran of the American Revolution, Thomas Atchley served alongside Private Andrew Jackson in 1794 under the command of Brigadier General James Robertson in the Indian Wars of the Lower Tennessee, led by Major Orr. During the state of Franklin, Thomas Atchley and his wife Lydia Richards settled along Older Branch, a tributary of the French Broad River, in 1786. The Atchleys were farmers and had 12 children. 44 years after their arrival in Sevier County, they, with others, organized and chartered in their home the Older Branch Baptist Church in 1830. And that's it. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. And that concludes our ceremony.
Thank you. Thanks, Gary and Jerry. Appreciate it. Welcome to the chapter, both of you gentlemen and your families. Glad to have you here. For our committee reports on membership, Ralph McDowell.
Yeah, our membership currently is about 255. And we appreciate everybody's hard work in signing up and helping us with the research. Also, it's been our tradition as a chapter over several years now to recognize the youth that attend. So Nathan, we want to recognize your presence and give you a $2 bill. And if you look on the back, it commemorates the signing of the Declaration of Independence. Thank you for coming. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Ralph, earlier, before John Morton read the Declaration of Independence, we gave the young man a copy of the Declaration of Independence to keep, so he can match that with his $2 bill. Thank you for coming.
Well, incidentally, Sarah, the teacher's making the inverter for a ballet lesson. And she's been here a number of times with her dad. I really give her, she's received many $2 bills.
She's learned.
I remember Sarah when she first started studying, she was a small child, it was around Christmas time, and she had 3 front teeth. They all sang to all I want for
Of my 2 front teeth, absolutely. Thank you, Ralph. Poster contest, John Morton, anything to regale?
Yes, the subject for the poster contest this year is Benjamin Franklin. And we've already begun to send everything out to all the schools and gotten a lot of response to Benjamin Franklin. The poster contest is for 4th and 5th graders where American history is usually taught.
Thank you, John. Before I have Robert Kittrell talk about the color guard, I want to share something with the group that I was talking about this morning. You know, I've only been a member here for a year and a half and have gotten involved recently since Tom Whitelock has held my wife hostage for some time now. But I've had a great opportunity to work with the color guard, and I really didn't know much about it. And I really think that everybody here should take a look. I've got a book laying on the center table we've put together about the Texas Color Guard, the National Color Guard, the rules and regulations of displaying and retiring a flag, all the things that I never really paid much attention to. There's also a number of photographs in there, some more revealing, of the activities of the Color Guard. I've had a great opportunity this year, along with Jerry Pinkerton, to 3 of my firsts, 2 of his, with the Color Guard, to participate in events that they make the membership in the SAR so much more meaningful. One was when we brought the remains of the World War II veteran back to the National Cemetery down in South Dallas. That was a great event. Secondly, we went to Corsicana, Texas, and we did grave markings for 2 of the past presidents of the Texas SAR to honor the people that have served in the SAR in my lifetime. And then most recently, last Thursday, probably the top for me so far is I got to be in the color guard as we presented the colors at the naturalization immigration ceremony in Irving, Texas. I knew so little about that, and I am so educated now, and I have become an advocate. To see these people that are studying, learning, and sacrificing to come and be citizens of the United States, which it came natural to me because I was born here. They want to be here, and they have to work to be here. And to see them as you face them with the flag, and they look at you, and they're taking pictures of you, and they're smiling at you, and we're just there to present the flag. At the end of the meeting, they all come up and they have their picture taken with you, their children, their family, their grandparents. They're happy to be here. They want to be Americans. It really gave me a great source of pride, and I thank the Color Guard for letting me do that. I won't miss another one. Anybody here that hasn't worked with the Color Guard, please get in touch with Robert Kittrell, because it's a great experience, and I've learned so much about what it means to be an American. Robert?
Thanks a lot, Tom. I was going to ask you to say a word about the INS naturalization ceremony. We've got another one coming up shortly, September the 28th, at the same place in Irving. And yes, you do have that experience of meeting families and individuals, and everyone coming through the front door rather than the back door, okay? And immigration is a hot topic today. So is an experience. There will be a flag retirement ceremony coming up October the 20th to present and post the colors at the chapter-sponsored flag retirement ceremony. This will be in Plano at the corner of Coit and Parker. Jeanette Pacifica, who is well known to this chapter by certain members, that she will direct the disposal of worn flags, and there is no telling how many worn flags that she has, so quite a number. And so that's quite a ceremony. She's got many of these flags from firms. The flags are tattered or worn, and the colors have faded. So that's quite a ceremony. That'll be at 10:30 a.m., October the 20th. There are other programs, but those are the two, anyway, that we probably should be present. Those who are in the color guard should attend. There's the Veterans Day Parade coming up in November. It's going to be on a Monday. It's going to be on the 12th of November. Okay? And speaking of veterans, Tom Whitelock passed this on to me. He said anybody that has visited a veteran this year because of his disability or illness or whatnot, he would like for you to give me a name and an address and phone number for that, because it does go into our annual report that Tom has to fill out with help. And so if you have had any connections there, visiting in a VA hospital, or even if he's home, so we would like that name and address and number. National demands names whenever we give those in the report, and the date visited. That's true. And that annual report it takes a lot of time. By the way, if Joe over there would like, Joseph, anything that you have done, if you've been a presenter at of a certificate medal at any school past, I know it's past that time, but he would like a copy of that certificate, or the program anyway, for that school. Doesn't have to have the certificate, but a copy of the program. And it's valuable. So, okay, that's all I have, Tom.
Thank you, Reverend.
Just as something as an afterthought that I remembered after he and I were talking, going back to that naturalization program, it's amazing to find out that they do naturalization installation every day of the week except Saturday and Sunday. And this year so far, the Dallas Regional Center has inducted 17,000 citizens. By the end of the year, they will add 20,000 citizens to the United States who had to work for it, had to earn for it. It didn't come easy, and now they're going to be citizens. And by the way, they do the same thing in Houston, San Antonio, they do it in Lubbock, and they do it in El Paso. So you can imagine the number of people that are becoming citizens of the United States in today's world when we don't hear about it. Those people in the Immigration Society are doing a great, great job, and my hat's off to them. Enough of a commercial. Nick, how about anything for the CAR or the essays? Absolutely.
one of their biggest programs they're going to be having will be Sunday, October the 7th. It's during the state fair, and it's when they have the wreath laying ceremony there at the Vietnam Veterans Memorial. And they're inviting all veterans. They've been trying to send out flyers to all the veterans organizations and passing on information. So if you're at the fair on Sunday, October the 7th, go up to close to the front gate where the Vietnam Memorial is, for the Texas Vietnam Memorial. And CAR will be presenting a ceremony there. Oh, and Trevor, I thought his mother said that he was going to try to get to one of your meetings. Trevor Burke, who is the state president, who is a member of the David Pendleton Society there, is, promoting his Texas theme, and I think I told you about it, where they're going to be honoring the 59 signers of the Texas Constitution, or the Declaration of Independence, that they had. But we're still waiting on Washington and the Brazos to give us a date to have the ceremony there. But they're working on a wall that will put information about all 59 signers to the Texas Constitution.
Thank you, Bradley Sue. At present, we have no entries for the CAR essay contest. Since there are still at least 4 Burke children out there that are members, I am not worried about future entries in there. Every Burke child so far coming up through the ranks has all done a CAR essay, so there's hope for the future. Thank you, Tom.
Not to pass over our friend John Morton, anything from the veterans?
No, but I want to thank everybody. We're getting a lot of response from our members. I really appreciate it. Get a lot of coffee, and that seems to be one of the things that they love. So I want to thank everybody, and please keep it up. They really appreciate it. Thank you.
John, thank you for the work that you do. Okay, as we move on the agenda, anything for old business to be discussed? Anything?
Where's the sign-up sheet for the state fair?
Okay, the sign-up sheet for the state fair, great question. Right in the middle of the agenda, Frank, there's a website. And the website is in blue ink, and if you go on that website and you pop that up on your computer, then you'll get a sign-up availability, and it'll have times that you can work in the morning or the afternoon for the state fair. Thank you. Okay, if we have no old business, any new business to be brought to the table? Jerry Brown.
I think it's open to everybody. Did everybody get an email from the SAR headquarters on the merchandise?
Perfect. Good.
No?
There was we can distribute that, Jerry. I think that's a good idea. The chapter presidents and the secretary got a message from the merchandise department at the national headquarters, and they're having a fall sale. And the fall sale is going to cover all merchandise. They used to do this in the fall for medals and certificates as you replenished your supply for the next year. Now they're doing it on all merchandise. It was not too well publicized, but we're going to be having a new logo. And the new logo then will supersede things that have the old logo on it. So I think they're going to try and get rid of some of that merchandise, although I believe we're still going to retain the crest. The logo itself will be an addition. But because of that, the merchandise department sent out a note to all chapter presidents and secretaries saying, hey, if you want to buy something this fall, do it. Because it's either a 15 or a 20% discount. Was that what it was? Something like that?
No, being conservative, I think it was closer to 10.
10? Okay. Whatever. It was a discount anyhow. And that's a great thing to bring up. We can get that out to the membership and so that they can, because you just correspond with the merchandise department on the website. I've ordered a lot of stuff for them, and they're really good to, both of the Susans, both are really good. Thank you, Jerry. Any other new business? Well, if not, is there anything, bills against the chapter or anything we need to be voted on? Well, that's good to know. So with that, if we would all rise. Whoops, I'm sorry. I did something wrong. I have to do the raffle. Jerry Pinkerton won't let me not do it.
Okay.
All right.
You should be thoroughly mixed up right now.
Well, I am, so that works.
I'll give you a favorite count.
Okay, yeah, just give me a number account. How many we got? Got 7. Okay, lucky number 7. All right, the first ticket, 969. All right, Glenn. Second ticket is 968.
Let me guess the next one.
961. 967. 977. 962. Oh no. Was it you? Oh, okay. Okay. 985. Marshall. You got to bring Mary something, right? 4 more? Marshall's coming. So how many we got? That's it? Okay. All righty. Sorry, Jerry. If you will, please stand and we'll have Chaplain Pounders give us the benediction.
God, we're so glad that we're a member of the greatest nation all over the world. A nation under God, under you, with all of the privileges that bring with us. Now we need to go out and fight to keep, to maintain our freedom, to maintain the right of law, to be equally given to every person. And we know that you will guide us in that direction as we have all these years since the establishment of this nation. We thank you for continuing your help in this area, and we swear that we also will continue to do that in the name of God. Amen.
Amen. Please remain standing and join me in the SAR recessional. Until we meet again, let us remember our obligations to our forefathers who gave us our Constitution, the Bill of Rights, an independent Supreme Court, and a nation of free men. We are adjourned.